Hi, everybody. I'm Joshilyn Jackson.
And I'm Lydia Netzer.
And we're here to talk about writing by chance. I think Rhoda is here.
Rhoda, you're here.
But she's muted.
She's muted. Do you want to unmute
Do you
Rhoda?
want to unmute Rhoda?
Rhoda.
No, Rhoda does not want to unmute.
No, Rhoda, we just 1 second.
I'm just going to talk then.
Yeah.
I'm Joshilyn Jackson. I am the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of 10 novels now. That is a lot of novels. I
So many novels.
most recently Mother May I and Never Have I Ever, which was sort of a sharp turn for me away from like book club fiction, family drama, more into like more murder, more thriller style stuff. And this is Lydia Netzer, the award-winning writer of and best-selling author of Shine, Shine, Shine and How to Tell Toledo from the Night Sky. She's been shortlisted for the LA Book Prize and been the Target Book Club pick. So it's sort of like literary street cred and commercial delight. And she's also was a New York Times notable book. So that's who we are. And we are here today to talk about, hi, Rhoda.
Rhoda's ready. Go, Rhoda.
No, I don't think I am.
Oh, okay.
You're not ready? You're not
Can
going?
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh,
Hey,
yes.
everybody out
right,
there
thank you.
in the chat, if you look
Yep.
down at the bottom of your
Yep.
screen,
No,
there's
no. We had a little minor technical deal. So you ladies did such a lovely job. Thank you. Do you mind if I go back and do a couple of Humanities Council things before we start?
Do it. Do it,
Thank
Rhoda.
you. Thank you. All right, I will. So I'm Rhoda Smith, and I'm currently in Minnesota, but I'm a South Dakotan with very deep roots, and I'm here to welcome you on behalf of the South Dakota Humanities Council, who produces the annual Festival of Books. We are so pleased that everyone is joining us for our virtual 2021 event. We would like to acknowledge first and foremost that this program comes to you from ground that's the homeland of the Ochede Shakowin, the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people. The South Dakota Humanities Council honors and appreciates the Indigenous people who have the longest relationship to this place. Before we officially get underway, I do need to share some housekeeping details. We're asking folks to keep their microphones muted throughout the event, not like mine, but to keep them muted to minimize background noise. If you'd like to ask questions or share comments with today's presenters, please type them in the chat section on Zoom, which you can open by clicking the conversation button at the bottom of the screen, or the comment section in Facebook. We will pass along as many as possible at the end of the session. We would also like you to encourage you to buy books from our presenting authors. You can buy them at your local independent bookseller. We also have our official festival booksellers, Books A Million and the Birdcage Bookstore and Mercantile, both in Rapid City. You can also buy directly from authors and publishers, and you can keep a lookout for links in our chat. To help us continue to improve the festival, we'd also appreciate you filling out an evaluation form. We'll share a link in the chat section on Zoom, and we will also email you a link in the survey at the end of the festival. Finally, you can help keep the festival free by making a tax-deductible donation to the South Dakota Humanities Council. Just visit our website, sdhumanities.org, and click the donate button. The festival would not be possible without generous support from numerous organizations and individuals who have already donated and are acknowledged on the back cover of our guide and on our website. And now we're going to get on with the show. The title of the show is Writing by Chance. These ladies have done a wonderful job of introducing themselves already. Joshilyn Jackson and Lydia Netzer are both acclaimed authors. I don't know, ladies, it's up to you. I have little bios I'm happy to share again, or if you just want to take the show away, that's great.
Rhoda, your whole thing.
Do it.
All right, take it away, ladies. Thank you.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, don't do it, Rhoda. Never do it.
Never.
Oh, we were encouraging you, but it's okay. We're good.
We're here in
South Dakota.
Rapid City, South Dakota.
South Dakota.
And we're in our hotel has brilliant
Shockingly bad.
real bad Wi-Fi.
Real
So
bad.
we're in a back room of a and
restaurant.
we are lit by the sun. So as the day wanes, so shall
We
we,
shall wait.
until we just wane right away. Hopefully, so get all your questions in early before we're just ghouls in the dark.
Just absolutely going to happen. We're very excited to be here.
We are.
We spent the first part of the festival teaching a workshop on how to use Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games to electrify your fiction. And we're going to talk a little bit about how randomness and role-playing games have electrified our fiction.
So electric.
So electric. And what we would like you to do is, like, it's more fun if we talk about what you want to talk about. So please feel free to just put your comments in the chat. We are watching for them, and Rhoda is going to be moving questions over from Facebook if you're putting questions there, and we're happy to ask. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to say, Lydia.
Yes, Jocelyn.
You named this talk. I said, what's the talk named? And you said Writing by Chance. I was like, okay, what does that mean?
Well, we just want to share with you some people think of authors as having a grand plan and figuring everything out in advance and understanding what's going to happen when they sit down to write. And oftentimes people get dissuaded from using random events or kind of oddball thoughts or occurrences to fuel their fiction because it wasn't part of the plan, or it couldn't possibly be meaningful if it wasn't organized.
And it feels scary, like you're letting control of your book go, you're letting it escape your tight, unmerciful clutches that are going to just march this thing toward literary greatness. And we both believe, both as professional writers and as people who have been involved in education for many years, that there is that opening that up and being open to the random, to letting the dice, as it were, kind of lead your story, can lead to some really great stuff. So I guess we're going to be talking about two of our books. I'm going to be talking about Mother May I, which is my most recent book. And Lydia is going to be talking about, oh, look, we have an look, I can show you a visual aid for hers.
It's a book.
How to Tell Toledo from the Night Sky.
I read it.
Tell me what this is about, Lydia.
Well, this book is about...
I, of course, have not read it yet. I read the audio version, so I'm familiar with the book.
Yes, Joshilyn was the narrator for the audio version of How to Tell Toledo from the Night Sky, and I believe it won an award.
It did.
Well, anyway, the book is about two astronomers who meet and fall in love only to find that their mothers knew each other as children and planned and orchestrated their meeting, so that it is kind of playing with the idea of chance versus fate, where can you really organize your future? Can you pick your soulmate, or do you have to find your soulmate? Does true love happen at first sight? And stuff like that. So the book is kind of about random stuff, and there were some random things that went into writing the book.
Okay. And Mother May I is, one thing I want to say about your book, that before I talk about my book, I'm going to talk about your book for a second. Sorry. It's interesting because the mothers are astrologers,
and the children are astronomers.
So there's this sort of mysticism versus science thing, which sort of goes with this idea of what we're talking about. Like
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that in there because I think
Yes.
it's interesting.
I mean, both of us are people who, the writers come in all varieties, and some people are very organized and have Post-it notes all over the wall and beautiful outlines, and they just, they execute a plan, and everything is very reasonable and well thought out. We're not that way. We're just really, I forget the name of, what is the very disturbing children's book about going off the rails?
I mean, we like a lot of very disturbing children's books, to be fair.
I think
The
this
one
is
about the
wrong.
heaps?
No. This is widely considered to be not disturbing. It's about a train, and you just haven't learned to live until you go off the tracks into the meadow. Why do I find it?
I have
Is it called Tootle? Tootle the Train?
I cannot help you with this. Like you're off the tracks and on your own on this one.
Go ahead and describe your book. I'm going to go to a dark place and try to remember why I hate little Toodles or whatever.
Instead of, well, it's really hard to think of stuff while you are staring directly into the waning sun.
I shall try. Summarize your book for us, Joshilyn.
I will. So Mother May I is the story of a woman named Bree Cabot who grew up barely in a family that was barely clinging to middle class, like the kind of thing where where you have a place to live and you're not food insecure, but just one little thing can throw you off the rails. But she's been very upwardly mobile. She got a scholarship, she completed college, she married very well. She's now living a very affluent life in inside Atlanta. And one day at her children's beautiful, perfectly curated private school, she's watching her daughter's play rehearsal. And she's got the baby. She has a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old, and then oops, they kind of have another one right now. And so the baby's there in his car seat, and she looks away for just 1 minute, and that baby's gone. And it's, if you've ever read one of my books, this is not a standard kidnap and ransom thing. Like in all of my books, the past has teeth. It's present. It's calming for Bree. There's a note where the car seat used to be that says, don't call your husband, don't call the cops, I will contact you. And this is not a spoiler, this happens immediately. Bree finds out that the person who has taken Robert is also a mother. And she finds out that they are from a similar background. And this woman just wants one little favor that will have, it seems innocuous, it's not innocuous. And it sort of leads Bree into this thing where she has to do what this woman says, but she's trying to find her. And because they are both mothers and because they're from the same background, this kind of weird empathy grows up between them. But at the same time, they're both fighting for their own child. So this is heading like directly toward hideous conflagration. And so like Lydia's, it's a beautiful love story. No, it's not a beautiful, it's kind of a beautiful love story.
It's a beautiful love story.
It is a beautiful love story. But it's a thriller. So that is the book that I'm talking about.
So were there any examples of things that kind of randomly came into your life that where you saw something, heard something, met someone, and suddenly the plans that you had were thrown away, or a problem that you had was solved, a knot that was tied was unraveled? Other metaphors?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is a pretty standard occurrence for both of us. But
it is.
Did you think of the Toodles thing, or no? It's just,
I'm pretty sure.
This is a wind egg. It got away from her.
No, I think what happens is little Toodles is on the rails, and then his bad behavior is that he goes off the rails and goes around in the meadows, and he gets flowers in his hair, and he's in the meadows, but that is positioned as the bad thing. Like Toodles,
we gotta get Toodles back on the rails.
Right. And I'm pretty sure.
No.
Tell us in the chat if this is not right, and I'm doing a disservice to a childhood favorite. I feel like Little Toodles is about like, don't go into the meadows, get your ass on the rail. So, I mean, because I think at the end he goes back on the rails, and then to me, he lives in servitude to
the great
in
machine,
service of reason forever, which is like an unimaginable hell. But why can't you go in the meadow?
Why can't you go in the meadow and get flowers in your
you're a train.
Well, there's that. There is that you're a train. I have never
heard him briefly.
I feel that is not really a children's book. Never heard of Little Toodles, but as a metaphor,
maybe it's Little Toots.
Have done a lot of tourism today, and we're a little.
We had toured South Dakota.
We did. So
we had feelings.
We did. We had a lot of feelings. Mm-hmm. We went to the Crazy Horse Monument, and I'm so glad. I loved Rhoda. I loved your introduction, and I loved what you said about that. It was very beautiful and sad to go into.
Rhoda has resolved into a red panda.
Very good. So one of the problems I had in Mother May I when I was writing it is that So I'm a writer who likes to end in what I call the breath. I like to end in a place. It doesn't have to be tidy, and everything's not going to be resolved. And if you're not paying close attention, there are some things about the end of this novel that might seem tidy, but read a little deeper. It's a little bit of a mess at the end, but it is not a bad. Like, I don't write books that are gonna, like, when you're finished with the book, you're like, I must find the ocean and walk into it like 100 lemmings, straight out until I sink. A lot of bad stuff is going to happen. It's a thriller. It's going to be really tight, but I'm looking for a place to end where there's some hope. And I don't mean that in the literary sense. Like, a lot of very literary writers will be like, as Svetlinka stood on the battlefield with the skulls of her 100 dead children around her and the blistering clouds of nuclear winter rising, she looked down, and through the dead head of her husband, a daisy bloomed. Like, and it's like, that's the hope. No, I mean, I try to end in a place of
Actual hope.
Mm-hmm. And I also don't know the end of my books. So when I start writing a book, I know the characters really well. And I have an idea of, like, a taste in my mouth I'm kind of walking toward, or an idea I'm walking toward, but I don't know the end. I don't know the plot twists. If I knew them, they would not, if they don't surprise me, they're not going to surprise you. So I just make this journey, which you would think is like giving into that randomness. But what happened with Mother May I is I got 75% of the way through the book, saw the end I had been walking toward the whole time, like subconscious mind pushing you forward, the universe pushing you forward, saw the end, and it was just horrifyingly bleak and brutal. And I was like, oh, I mean, real bad. And I thought, I'm not writing that. Like, I'm not that person. I hate nihilism. It stopped me dead on the book, and I could not finish the book. And then I thought, well, I have a deadline and a mortgage, and I really should finish the book. And there was no way to do it. And then we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, as we do, because we're enormous nerds. And there was, I was running the game, and I was creating a foil character for another character. And I realized it was the same situation. Like, I had this character who was heading for something horrible. So I kind of created this little foil character to mitigate this and find this other character. There would be off-roads where this character might not die a horrible death. It was a player, and I created an NPC for them to help them navigate so that they didn't walk into the sea like 100 lemmings. And I thought, this is what I need. I'm rolling this character and setting up this NPC. And I thought, this is what I have to do. Bree needs a foil character. And I called my agent, and I was like, I have to start the book over. It's going to have 2 narrators now. And she was like, no. I was like, click. And started the book over. But it was, I was just rewriting scenes from a different point of view and sort of creating a new storyline. And it let me write all the way to the really scary ending that I knew was truthful and that I knew had to happen. But at the same time, it also allowed there to be these off-roads and these places of hope to where you're not going to want to hang yourself when you finish. Like, it's fun. It's a fun book. It's not, you're not gonna die of it. You'll have fun. What about you, Lydia?
Well, I mean, one thing I want to say is, like, the thing you should know if you know a novelist is that a novelist who is open to incorporating things they run into in everyday life into their books. In fact, you might call them like a predator of some kind,
pirates, nightmare of vampire leeches.
It's really dangerous to know a novelist like that. Like, if you want to know a novelist and spend a lot of time with them, pick a planner who, like, is very reasonable.
Lauren Groff.
Yeah. Pick a planner.
She will never put you in a novel yourself.
Don't pick a seat of your pants person who's going to be out there looking for solutions to problems when you're just trying to have lunch. Because you will be incorporated, you will solve some problem that they're working on, because we are the type of writers who are constantly on the prowl for novel stuff to go in the novel. It's something that my husband is very has a lot of his words that he says. He'll say something funny, and I'll just be like, I just need to at my phone for a minute for no reason. Well, what time is it? I'm turning it down.
So you can just, but that's like being open to
Right.
what's happening
It's
around
just
you.
being open. It's not being a pirate. Anyway, one of the things that I was struggling with when I wrote my first novel, Shine, 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 I had these two characters who were in love. One of them was an autistic man, and one of them was a bald woman. And the woman, I fully understood her. I knew why she loved him. He was a person who thought hair was stupid anyway. So he looked at her and she was just the perfect thing. He wasn't tolerating her or accepting her or understanding her. He actually preferred that she didn't have any hair. And just for a million reasons. I mean, he's just wonderful. Like, why would you not love him? I understood because I understand my love for my husband very well. Like, I do it all the time. I'm really good at it and I get it. But I was really having a hard time expressing him. Like, but what does he see in her? What does this very sensible man see in this
Very logical thinkers.
weird lady? So, well, it's never occurred to me to just know that that could be why I was having trouble accessing. Whoops. But anyway, so I was having trouble articulating why is Maxon in love with her and how can he express this in terms that she will really be able to understand, and how can I make it beautiful? And we happen to be driving in France. And we're driving around. My husband was driving. I was sitting in the passenger seat, and I decided that I was going to finish the novel in France. So it was right at the end of my book, and I still hadn't really sorted this problem out. I didn't feel like I had nailed him down. And we drove past this field of some sort of grain. I think it was wheat. It was the kind of grain that has little hairs on the ends.
That's wheat, yeah.
Yeah, it's wheat. I hope it was wheat.
I say it as a farmer.
Absolutely wheat. This is confirming.
Wheat.
Anyway, we were driving through this wheat, and in this field of wheat, there were these random big red poppies blooming. And it like took me by the throat, and like that image of the poppies in the wheat, I was just like, oh, I suddenly understand Maxon, the character. I understand his love for her. I understand what he's going to do to express it to her. In that moment, Maxon wrote a poem. I was like, pull over. I have to get out. So I get out of the car. I get out of the car. Children are in the back. This is normal, fine. Mom's the writer. Gotta take the rough with the smooth. I'm staggering through the ditch, and I'm walking into this field of wheat, like crying, taking pictures. Like, take pictures. And I thought, and in that moment, he wrote his only poem that he's ever written
In his whole life.
Which I will now tell you what it is.
I want you to recite the whole poem.
I'm going to recite the whole poem, and I think you should memorize it because it's so meaningful and beautiful.
All right, here we go.
The whole poem is, we are poppies in the wheat.
But, I mean, for him, that's like 100,000 sonnets. That's 100,000 for this super linear, super scientific math guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you're just driving through France and then had some sort of breakdown.
Had that not happened, like had we not taken that turn, or I think we were following the tour and they were just going to that place that day I mean, it was absolutely random, but in that time, I was constantly churning this problem in my mind. It was like, because it was always in the back of my mind, these chance occurrences can really like spark something up. What about you? Do you have another example?
I can't remember what it is. I did not have fully write it down.
The American.
Oh yeah, I do. So a thing that I really, okay, before I tell you this, I'm gonna say something else, and it's this. We are almost done talking. And so I would like, if you have something you want us to talk about, because here's my absolute threat. I'm threatening you now. I'm going to tell you this really kind of cool story about an art exhibit. And then Lydia's going to tell you a kind of cool story about, I think, a blowjob. No, no, no.
Those are notes from a different talk. This just being recorded.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
Anyway, Jocelyn's going to talk about architecture.
No, I'm not. Okay, my point is that when I'm done talking about this, and when she's done talking about not that, we're going to be done. And so and then we'll still have like 10 or 15 minutes, and we will talk about Dungeons and Dragons, like unstoppably.
Yes, we will.
If you don't want to be talked to, if you don't want to be evangelized into some sort of
relentlessly, it's going to
D20 situation, if you want to talk about literature, a really good thing to do would be to ask a question. So one of the things that I love the visual arts. I love to go to museums. I love to go, like today we went to Crazy Horse and just cried about America. I love that, like those I like representative art. And I went and saw, there was an art exhibit touring the country. It was called Abandoned America by a photographer named Michael something. I didn't bring my notes downstairs. So, and it was really cool. Like at its heart, like the kind of books I write thrillers, but book clubs read them, because like if you want to take one of my books to the beach with a giant cocktail and have a fun time, the Lord be with you, go in peace. That's what it's there for, have fun. But if you want to see what if you want to pay close attention and go with me on a journey, like I'm writing about something that really matters to me, and a lot of book clubs read my books. Like, and this book is really about economic disparity. And I came from this art exhibit that I went to see. It was Abandoned America, which it's like, here's beautiful affluent Atlanta, and then here's the small town that she came from, and then here's the parts of America that are just abandoned, ruined, and destroyed. And this guy has photographed all these places where the beautiful primary colors have faded and molded, and it's all falling apart, and it's like train stations. And the one that got me was what were the amusement park pictures, like these sites of such, of joy and children and funnel cakes and primary colors and happy animals on a carousel, and all of those things collapsing in on themselves, really post-apocalyptic. And I thought, if I look at Atlanta, where I look at we live in a little affluent town right inside the Atlanta city limits, our neighborhood. And then I can go back to like where my people are from, which is from a small town that's absolutely just dying and economically struggling, to another town near there that there isn't even a town anymore. And this is sort of like, this is what the book is about. It's like this, the growing economic disparity in America. And the whole book came from me just doing what I always do, which is go to see art museums and exhibits and look at paintings and photography anytime I can, because I love it. And I see this, and I have these characters I've been thinking about for a while. And all of a sudden I know, like, we're heading for that amusement park. And I know what this book is about.
We have a question that I think really ties into something else that I wanted to say. I'm going to read the question.
Okay, do it.
I think everyone can already see it, but I'm just going to read it. Okay, wonderful talk. Thank you. Thank you so much. How do you recognize or filter the random events that could connect with your work in progress? How do you know when to choose outside influence over controlled literary trajectory? I will say this kind of thing only really happens when there is a problem for me. Like if there's something, if everything's just clicking along and it's flowing and there aren't any issues, I don't tend to become such a harvester in the world. But I think when something is really not working is when it works, is when you do that kind of thing. Here's another example that I wanted to talk about from Shine, Shine, Shine. Actually, I had a scene where the two characters were having a fight, and it just wasn't working. She was coming off as bitchy, he was coming off as whiny, and the scene wasn't working. But I needed them to just get into this conflict with each other. And so this is a kind of different sort of completely by chance thing, but I just switched the dialogue tags around on the fight. So everything that she had, because these people had been married for 20 years, like they were very, and they had grown up together. They were very similar people in some ways. So I just switched the dialogue tags around. Everything that he said, I put in her mouth. Everything that she said, I put in his mouth. And it was like, the sky opened, a single sunbeam landed on my keyboard, and it was like the scene just popped and worked. So I mean, how I know is when to use random stuff is like is if I'm stuck, really.
Well, I mean, I think that's true. Like as a novelist, one of the things that my husband says to me is that my eyes don't point this way. My eyes point back into my brain. Like he's like, here's how you die. You wander into traffic because you are thinking, like sometimes we'll be walking the dog and we'll be in the middle of a conversation and I'll just be gone and he'll just wait. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, what were you saying? And he's like, you were in the novel, weren't you? And I was like, yeah. So when it's working, when it's going, I'm staring back into the gray meat of my own brain where fireworks are going off and stuff's happening. When I'm stuck, yeah, the eyes flip around and face the other way. We have another question.
What?
Do you ever use randomness to create your characters, or is randomness confined? Oh, we have different answers to this. Or is randomness confined only to situations and developments? Lydia, why don't you take that first? No, I don't know.
Well, a couple of times I've kind of been at a loss for what a character would look like, and then like one time we were at Family Day at the Langley Center at NASA, because we're all nerds and we like to go there and see the NASA things. And I came around the corner and my character Maxon was I kind of knew what he looked like, but I didn't really fully feel his physical presence. And I came around the corner and there was this tall guy with curly hair, kind of googly eyes, really intense, but he was earnestly explaining like different tensile strengths of different materials to this little group of children. And he was just so deep into the physics of it. And I was like, oh my God, that's Maxon. Like I knew him and I saw him. So I think visually in some ways, it helps me to bring in randomness. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say we were gonna have different answers, but we don't. This is really terrible. Visually, that's absolutely true. I remember like being out having coffee with my friend Jake, and I looked across the restaurant and I saw a child who's in my I mean, not a child, but like an adolescent who was in the novel I was writing. I was like, that's her, that's the haircut, that's the face, that's the shoulderiness and the just like this little seething girl suffering through sushi. I was like, oh, that's her. So I'm like trying to pretend to text just to get a picture of her. And I know it's like somebody's minor child, that's wrong. But I deleted them after I had written down, like I took it home, I poured over the pictures, I wrote about 6 paragraphs, wrote it down, and then I deleted the pictures. But it like seeing her like snap so many things into focus, but like she was already in my head. For me, characters come first, and maybe there is randomness to that. Like I think about like the kinds of things I'm likely to pirate out of my own life and the kind of things I'm not. My friend Charlotte, who's been my friend since we were both little bitty and we grew up in the same town, she says it like this, like reading one of my books, there's this, it's like I've taken everybody that she's ever met from her family and my family and everybody we went to school with and everybody who lived in our small town, and I've put them in a Cuisinart. And then she'll see this story arc and she knows none of this ever happened to me. I never did any of this. I'm making the whole story up. But when she sees the people, it's like I've dipped my fingers into the soup in that Cuisinart and done this. So like in this scene, the unfortunate haircut my Aunt Susan perpetrated in 1982 will be on one character. And then 100 pages later, the unfortunate thing my Aunt Susan said at a wedding will be in the mouth of an entirely different character. So they're both Aunt Susan, like little bits of her speckling other characters to light them up. But Aunt Susan has never appeared in one of my books.
We have another question.
Oh, what is it?
If things and events feed the novel when you're stuck, do they also ever give you characters, or are those composites? Well, I think I want to say that like sometimes if you're creating a character, sometimes randomness enters the process where there is a temptation to make a character that is kind of perfect and everything about them makes sense. So their background leads into their foreground. The people they know are all kind of predictable. I feel like this kind of, a lot of times people use like character questionnaires to kind of like develop a character, and they end up with a character that makes total sense. There's nothing surprising. And we like to say, because we're Ezra Pound, that it needs a stone in its shoe. Like without a stone in the shoe.
We're not individually Ezra Pound. It's a collective.
Collectively we are.
More than one person to embody Ezra Pound.
Only the good parts of Ezra.
There you go.
Like if Ezra Pound were now and we're two people,
Right.
And we're female.
Yes.
And not a racist.
Right. And not a racist. That's us.
Anyway, but just to say, Ezra Pound said that you art needs a stone in the shoe, which is what we kind of feel like, introducing randomness and characters that make too much sense, giving them something that makes absolutely no sense for their character, and then trying to figure out, okay, I've decided this is true, this has happened, or this is real. Now I have to figure out a story way to explain it, what happened in their past, or who did they run into, what experience did they have, to make that make sense. That's a great way to, even for lesser, this usually happens, I think, with like side characters, but even like for a side character to be able to say, this is actually a round, complicated character, just because I introduced randomness into it kind of on purpose.
I mean, we are agents of chaos, and we are curious beings. But
So ladies, I do have a question.
Oh, sure.
Hi. So these folks have been asking great questions about randomness, and in fact, I was going to mention that I randomly appeared in a book that one of our authors had, and she didn't tell me till after the fact, but she did tell me. So that was one question. Do you ever tell people that they're going to be in your book?
Yes.
No.
I
got both answers. Go ahead.
Something fun. Well, this is kind of fun. I love libraries and I love librarians, and a librarian who I love very much, who I've known for many years, said, I wish that you would just use my name in a novel. We had been drinking a little bit, just sipping straight liquor for hours. And she confessed to me that she had always wanted to be in a book. And I went home and put her name in the book. And then I sent her the galley as soon as it came out. And I had made her the criminal meth addict with her teeth broken out and a big Tweety bird tattoo on her boob that is perpetrating a violent robbery. And I was like, be careful what you ask for. But she loved it. Like, she loved it. She's bought that book for about 50 people. So I will do things like that, like for fun, like Easter eggs like that. But but nobody, like, I'll use a piece or a moment, but it very seldom means the same thing that it meant in the moment that it happened. So like when she peels one of her husband's funny lines out, it doesn't go in the mouth of a character. It might go in the mouth of a 14-year-old girl in an entirely different context or scene.
People don't tend to recognize themselves in books anyway.
They do not.
And I think it's because of that, like by the time it goes through the process of becoming part of the novel and being recontextualized with whatever the character is that we're using, it's not really that thing anymore. And that whoever person that you kind of like bounced it off of, like something they said or some gesture they have, it's so far from them that they don't even recognize it themselves. The only time I've ever had to tell somebody that I put them in, that maybe not the only time, I don't know, I could be wrong, but a notable time I remember was when I used the name Johnny Fan, because it's just such a great name. Johnny Fan, P-H-A-N. And this was in my novella, Everybody's Baby. And in the novella, he was this like super cool performance artist. And I don't think I would have ever stolen a real person's name to give it without permission, to if it was like the bad guy or whatever. But
I would,
because
obviously.
Johnny Fan was the coolest person in the book, I thought it was okay, but it has made it awkward. Like I still know Johnny Fan.
Oh
sort of.
no. So here's the thing, the subconscious is terrible. In one of my books, there's a character who is a horrible person named Jim Beverly. 10 years after I wrote the novel, I happened to look at our life insurance bill, and the agent my husband had chosen, his name is Jim Beverly, and that's where I had just seen the name on envelopes for years. I thought I'd made it up, but no, it's our insurance agent, and he is a nightmare human. But he's lovely, I'm sure, in real life.
But like one of the things they do with our books before they go to print is they have to check every proper noun and make sure that it isn't. In one of my books, I had a physicist, and I had used just a random name that I thought, and it actually turned out to be there was an actual physicist with that random name. So they don't approve of us using.
Yeah, I mean, we would not. I mean, I would never have. And Jim Beverly was nothing like. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I ever met the insurance agent. Maybe they looked exactly like. Maybe he's coming for me. I don't know. But it was just the name on an envelope got stuck in my head, because I'm sorry to my insurance agent, but that is an evil Jim Beverly. Sinister. Not a good guy.
Totally sinister.
So ladies, I just wanted to mention, especially to those folks who are watching, we have about 6 minutes, give or take. So if there are some more questions, we definitely want people to get those in the chat box so that you can respond to 1 or 2 more questions. While we're waiting, I have a different random question.
Random.
Well, because you said sort of one of the larger questions is it random? Is it fate? So both of you are writers. Random or fate? Were you destined to be writers, or did it just happen?
We
have no other skills. It's not. I don't think it's either. I think it's a process.
I think we should say it was destiny.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think we were hand selected by God to be writers. That must be why.
Yes, Ezra, that seems true. No,
did you not get a prophecy?
I did.
I had a prophecy.
A red egg.
I had to go in a quest and find the 3 swords.
And then you were a writer?
Yeah.
Me too. Exactly the same.
It was destiny.
It's random.
It was destiny.
I mean, it's not.
For me.
My mother and we both had mothers who read aloud to us, who were, I moved around a lot as a kid, and my mom would find the library before she found the freaking grocery store when we got to a new town.
Also, we played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
A lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Which is just basically a nesting ground for novelists.
And it's true. I mean, if you're interested in being a writer, I would say you should immediately hie thee to the closest nerd store, buy yourself a set of dice,
and get on that.
Get on it.
Oh, we have another question.
We have another question. I think maybe they're looking for influences in your writing. What do you think? Because the question just asks what you read other than Ezra Pound. Yeah.
I love I like in terms of like the kind of stuff I write, I like Tana French. I like
we can only say
the Texas Ranger novels. I can't remember her name. She's freaking great. Brown is her last name. I like my big influences, like who did I read? Like if I say the words Flannery O'Connor or genuflect.
That's not genuflect.
It is. It's a Flannery genuflect.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, this is.
That's
I know.
gang sign.
Well, as a gang, I'm going to be
genuflect by doing this
random thing. Yes, it's true.
That's aggressive. Genuflecting is like.
It is. I'm aggressive about Flannery
solemn.
O'Connor, but she's and she was really Catholic, so that's probably very offensive to her dead spirit, whom I love.
She loves it.
I've read To Kill a Mockingbird probably 1,000 times, and then I have like these other weird influences growing up. Like one of my favorite novels is Watership Down. I obsessively read I love Pulp Fiction. I love the Conan the Barbarian books. I still like those. So, what do you do with that? What about you? Well, I know she is American literature. She likes.
I literally love Night.
It's very hard to get her to read something that has been written
recently.
And by recently, we mean,
Like-
a century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love 19th century American literature, pre-Civil War mostly. I like to just put Emerson and Melville in a get them next to each other and just let them fight, and I just read their fights and I watch it. It's pretty
Delicious.
cool. I love
Thematic,
it.
thematic war in between this.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moby Dick is my favorite novel, and I love Nathaniel
I like
Hawthorne.
it too, but I just get the way.
Don't say those words.
It's not even true.
Why would you say that when
Just
you know it
because
hurts me
I
so
know.
much?
If you read Moby Dick and skip the whaling parts, you will go to hell. That's
It's
a fact.
not the same. You can't say I read Moby Dick, but blah, blah, blah. No, you didn't.
I read the whaling
You
parts.
read-
I just like to say it to watch your head.
Mm.
And I read a lot of contemporary fiction. Like I like to read what's coming out now. I'm usually reading ahead. The stuff I'm reading right now.
I like a lot of sci-fi.
Oh yeah, I like sci-fi too.
Mhm.
It's not even out. We both read all the time. We read a ton of stuff. So, well, this is really fun. Rhoda, thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much. You did more than was asked of you, and it's been
Oh.
wonderful.
What was asked?
We are so happy
Oversharing.
that you joined
Yes,
us.
we didn't say it.
No, really. And so we are coming to the end of our time though. So I hope that you're going to perhaps go out and do random things, or, find random things on the rest of your time here in South Dakota. Who knows?
You betcha.
Yes. So on behalf of the South Dakota Humanities Council, thank you to today's presenters for sharing your expertise. And thanks to all of you on Zoom and Facebook for attending this event. Don't forget to visit our website, sdbookfestival.com/virtual, for more great programming to come throughout the virtual 2021 South Dakota Festival of Books. Thank you all again.
Thanks.
Bye.